Hey guys, this is part 3 of our video production series on how to capture and edit weekend recordings. And this is going to be post-production and editing. And post-production is a term I use often. Basically, it means production and editing work after the service is done, hence the word post. So post-editing with audio, video, anything technical related is going to mean after the fact. And this allows us to do pretty much anything with the raw video we've captured during a service. We can enhance audio, we can fade things in and out. And today I just want to show you the primary method of utilizing Adobe Premiere Pro and After Effects CC. Both are the Creative Cloud versions of these programs to put titles and to fade in and out and chop up a raw recording. We're going to get started. Here in the desktop, we'll double click and open up Adobe Premiere Pro. Most likely this program will already be open, so don't worry about having to open it already. That was covered in part 2. This is part 3. Of course, we'll open the Weekend Services 2015-2. Right now, as of right now in May 2015, this is the current Weekend Services project that we'll need to be working with. If you don't see that in this list here, this is a big thing that gets brought up. If you don't see the Weekend Services 2 or 1 or 3, whatever we're on, then you need to go to Open Project. And this is where you might need to rewind this part of the video a couple times and memorize this file structure. The raw Adobe project files are saved on the C drive, and then we're going to go to Users, and then Tech and Code 2, and then Documents, and then Adobe, and then Premiere Pro, and then 8.0. So a lot of folders to click through. If you look up here, there's a lot of layers. But then here is the list of the complete list of Adobe Premiere Pro projects, and then of course Weekend Services would be right there. We'll go ahead and open that one up. Now keep in mind you're working with media that's pretty big. If we looked at the files in part 1, they're almost a half a terabyte in size. So we'll need to be patient while these files load. Most often you're going to see this little Link Media dialog box pop up before the project opens. Every single time you can just hit Offline All. This simply means that the clips cannot be found because they're old and we've cleared them off of the W drive. When you first open the program, you'll see this yellow Media Pending window up here. That just means the files are loading off of the W drive and being placed down here into this timeline. What I'm going to do, this will be a longer video, I'm going to explain this program as we go, as if you've never seen it before, so please bear with me if I'm moving too slowly. This is going to be very thorough. I want anyone who is anyone to come in the future and be able to really solidly know this program. So while this media is pending, I'm going to give you a brief tour of Premiere Pro. What we're looking at are 3 main areas of the program. This left box up here outlined in blue is our project bin, and right now the effects tab is clicked, which is where we grab our transitions like fading in, fading out. I'm most interested though in clicking on this project Weekend Services tab, and this is where we're going to see a lot of different things show up. It kind of looks like a folder window with a bunch of files. Right now we're seeing a bunch of Blessed Life Week 3, Saturday, Week 4, Week 3, 9:30, 11:15. Anything with a little question mark next to it like this means that the file has been deleted and the program can't find it on the W drive. So if you would like anything with a question mark, you can plan on just highlighting and then right-clicking and doing right-clicking on the letters and doing we can clear, or you can choose the file and hit the delete key on the keyboard, and the old files that we don't need anymore will go away and the bin will look a little less busy. Okay. Continuing with the tour of the program, this right obviously here is the preview window, which shows you kind of the, what you're going to output eventually. And then down here is the timeline. This timeline is pretty important. Another word for this is sequence. So there are 3 sequences down here organized by tabs. We have a message, worship, and then podcast. And then this may be familiar from part 1 where we looked at the 3 different file types that need to be in every week's folder on the F drive. Most importantly, the message is what most people watch during the week at home. So a lot of emphasis is put on editing this message every week, and then of course the worship and podcast. Continuing with the tour here, we have our timeline, and right now we have this blue cursor. If we click and hold on this tab up here, we can scrub through and preview the video and kind of see from a bird's eye view what the recording looks like. We have our audio down here. These are audio waveforms. The higher these spikes, the louder the sound is. We're looking for good healthy audio, so this looks pretty good to me. If the sound was really quiet, we'd see really small spikes. If it was too loud, the spikes would be hitting the top of this bar and it wouldn't sound very good. As far as the video is concerned, this looks great to me. And we're pretty zoomed in. If we look at the timing up here, we see that we're only going by 5-second increments, and Jason's message was about 40 minutes long. So we can zoom out by choosing this scroll bar down here and grabbing the very end of it. See my mouse turned into a little hand. If I grab the end of this zoom bar and drag right, we're going to zoom out. And if I keep zooming, we'll see the entire video. And it's about 42 minutes long. Again, I just clicked here and put my cursor at the end. So what we're going to do is make sure this video is edited correctly, and we'll assume that nothing is in this timeline, or we'll assume that we're starting from the previous week and this is a new week that we're going to be inserting. So most of the time in the message sequence, we're going to have the previous weekend's video still in here. It might be offline, it might be still there. Either way, what we want to do is click on that raw recording and hit delete on the keyboard, and it will go away. What we're left with are two little snippets of video chunks. This here is the impact bumper, and it's just simply a sequence of the logo that flashes in and then goes away, shows our website for a second, and then fades into the message. So this can stay for each weekend, and periodically throughout the year, maybe quarterly, I'll update this file to be different and kind of new and fresh. But this basically is its own little clip, and if you click and hold this on the timeline, you can drag it around like it's an object and release it and put it wherever you want it to go. If we're continuing with some basics here real quick, there's a difference and a delineation between video and audio. So in this case, this is just a video only clip. There's no sound attached to it. It's just a silent video clip. And if there was sound, we would see under audio a sound clip. And there just isn't. And so there's a line right here that separates the video tracks from the audio tracks. And I can place this clip here on any video track I want to and sort of stack things on top of each other. And the same goes for audio. I can use an unlimited number of audio tracks and stack sound on top of each other into a mix. This program is pretty cool. What we're going to go ahead and do is drag the recording from the service that we like the most. So in this case, it was going to be Blessed Life week 5, or I think it was week 4, excuse me. We'll do 11:15. So it's up here in this bin, and if you watch part 2, you know that we captured this and logged it correctly. We'll drag it down to this timeline before I release. Notice how the sound and the video are linked together, and if I move down, they're going to go to audio 1 and video 1 track. If I move them up, they'll sort of snap together to the sequential tracks beneath or below video 1. I want this to be on video 1 and audio 1, and then I'll bump it right up against the bumper and let go. Now, what this is going to be again is the raw recording. So if I put my cursor here at the beginning, the recording most likely is going to start in a funny place. So it could be worship, it could be announcements in this case. So we don't want to see this necessarily. So what we're going to do is scrub our cursor through and find the place where Jason's message actually started. This is where we'll need to do a conference as a tech team after services are over and decide what we want to have covered in the message and what is actually worship. In this case, Nick Warren, who is here on the screen, did a solo song before Jason's message. I think it might be cool to include that as part of the message this weekend. So what we'll go ahead and do is find where this starts. So we'll put our cursor approximately where this is, and we'll zoom in and find where Nick's song starts, which I believe is right here. Then over here there's a palette of tools, and we're going to go ahead and grab our razor tool. And this is simply a tool versus the arrow that allows us to take this clip, and you see where the cursor is now, to click, and it will cut the clip into two and essentially splice and make a cut there. So what we can then do is we'll keep this stuff, and then we'll delete all this stuff here that we don't need. If we zoom out again, we'll see have a bit more room to work. Now that we know this is where we want the video to start, we'll scrub through, check everything out. There's Jason, he looks good. He's doing his message, and I want to make sure that nothing happened at the end of this video. I want to make sure it ends cleanly. That's one thing that's important to make sure of, that we always check this clip from start to finish. We don't need to watch the whole thing, but just scrub through it like this with the cursor and make sure everything looks good. Sometimes there could be errors. Okay, so Jason dismissed at the end of the service, and we had a worship song at the end. We don't need to have this worship song be at the end of the message, so what we can do is take a listen to where Jason said you're dismissed, or where he said amen from his prayer. Cool. So I just listened for either the end of a complete sentence that he said, amen, anything that has an ending finality to it. Again, I'll use my razor tool here, make that clip, make that cut. Back to my mouse tool, and then delete the end tag that we don't need. And then I'm going to zoom back out. And so what we're left with now is simply Jason's message right here. This is it. This is a sidebar. Sometimes you'll see this gray appear on the timer bar versus the dark gray. These are just in and out points that somehow get accidentally applied. Don't worry about them. If you are annoyed by them, you can right click up here in the numbers and go clear in and out, and those will go away. So here is the clip, and we can drag this entire thing, provided that we're zoomed out. Don't get caught zoomed too far in. So if you're always seeing a view like this and you're grabbing your scroll bar and there's just miles and miles of video, do yourself a favor and zoom out to where you can see the entire project. It makes life a lot easier and less stressful. Then we'll take this entire message clip and we'll bump it right against the impact bumper one more time. We'll take a look at the timing of the video total, including the bumper, and we are now at 50 minutes. So that's cool, but I'm beginning to rethink our decision to keep Nick's song at the beginning. These clips don't have a time length restriction, but now that I'm seeing that Nick did this spoken word part and his song was, about 6 minutes long, we might want to just cut this whole thing out and start where Jason began to speak. I think that's a decision we'll make. I'm making one by myself today. So I'm going to just go ahead and find where his song ended, and there looks like a little bit of silence here, so this will be a good place to cut. I'll take my razor tool and I will make that cut, and then go back to my mouse tool and then delete this clip here, which is Nick's song, and then zoom out, bump our message that's left against the impact bumper here at the beginning, and if we play this is what we'll have. Cool. That looks good, but it's kind of a hard cut, right? It doesn't look all that professional. It just sort of chops in like that, and the sound, if you can hear it, doesn't fade in very nicely. So the next step is going to be to apply some very simple transitions. And so what we can do is up here in our bin, go to the Effects tab, and let's start with the sound. We'll do audio transitions and just click the little arrow to open this folder up. The only option in this one is crossfading, so we'll open up the crossfade. There's 3 options. I suggest using the exponential fade. It sounds the best. You just take the icon for that transition effect, click and hold, and drag it on top of the sound down here, and you see how it sort of highlights the area where that effect is going to be applied. When you let go, there's now a little effect there, and if you were to listen to this clip, the sound would fade in pretty nice. That sounds good. Now this defaults to maybe a second long, and so if you wanted to, your mouse, as you hover over the edge of this clip, sort of becomes that little red extension tool, and you can click and hold and make this fade in as long as you want it to be. Of course, you don't want to cut off any of Jason's words, so I would suggest just fading it in for about a second or two until you see the first words of his that are spoken by these spikes down here. Secondly, we'll need to do a video transition, and if you notice how this bumper fades to white, and then boom, there's the message. What we can do is go up here to our effects bin and do video transitions, open that up, dissolve, and then we can either do a cross dissolve, which will just kind of fade from one clip to another, or we can dip to white, and this is where it will literally dip to white. That's what it says. If we drag this clip and let it go, this will now continue this white dip, and then as the clip continues into Jason, and there is sort of that white flashing fading effect, which might be ideal. That looks good. Much better than just a hard cut. Okay, hopefully you're still with me, and again, if you need to rewind and watch parts over again, feel free to do so. I feel like I'm moving fast, but maybe I'm moving slow in reality. We'll see. I'm looking forward to your feedback. I've never made videos like this before. Alright, so the second part of this deal is going to be working with a new element that we're introducing, and that's titles that are going to appear on the lower part of the video. And that's just a little touch that adds quite a bit of professionalism to these recordings, and in my opinion is necessary for anyone that doesn't know who Jason is and doesn't know what series we might be in. This is an important step, and I wanted to standardize this more and have you guys know how to use After Effects, to create titles. So if we are going to scrub through in Premiere Pro and take our cursor and put it on top of this pink clip, which you'll notice is layered on top of the video, this pink clip is this square here. This is simply a title, a lower third title is what they call it, and it's got obviously the wrong name and the wrong title on it. This is designed to tell people who is speaking and what's going on. I would love to have a second title that shows up immediately after this one that shows the name of Jason's message and what series we're in. So we're going to talk about how to make both of those and then how to import them into the project. If you're wondering where these titles are actually stored, everything is always in your project bin, and if we right click on this clip here and we can do reveal in project, it will highlight it right here. This is the Jason name title. And this is really cool, and this is where we can bring in After Effects to edit this title. Watch this part carefully. Once we've revealed this in the project, we'll right click on it and let's do Edit Original. And what this will do is open up After Effects automatically for us, keeping in mind that this is all Adobe software, so everything is very backwards compatible with each other. What After Effects just did that you can't see is it opened up on the second screen. And so there are two monitors on this computer. If that happens, feel free to leave things spread out. There's no need to stack stuff on top of each other. But for the sake of this video, you've got to see what I'm doing. So I'm going to drag After Effects over to this window and put it right on top of Premiere Pro, bump it to the top of the screen, let it go as full screen. Here's our original title. After Effects is a program used for any kind of video effects. It's not a video editor. It's simply designed to do titles, special effects, that kind of thing. We have a similar layout here in this program. We have a cursor that will scrub through about an 8-second length that this title actually is, and we can see all the different components and layers of what makes up this animation. What we're most interested in, though, is changing the text. Luckily, we'll never have to change the logo, the colors. That will be stuff I'll take care of to update throughout the year to keep things fresh. What you're concerned with is going to be changing the name and the title of who is speaking for that weekend. In this case, it's Jason. So we're going to go down here to the Chris Conrad layer, click it, and then if we take our text tool right here, click that, and then click on Chris Conrad, the cursor then goes inside of that text box. I can highlight that text, and in all caps, I can type Jason's name. Make sure you don't misspell his name, that's embarrassing. Finally, the district superintendent is a separate layer. I'll click on that one. See how there's a red refresh disabled, release caps lock to refresh view. That's an important glitch in After Effects. If your caps lock is left on, hit caps lock and you'll see the preview window again. I'll put my make sure our text tool is selected, put the cursor in there, highlight district superintendent or whatever is in there, and Jason is the lead pastor. If you're ever confused of proper titles for whoever's speaking, if it's someone on staff at Impact, you can always go to our website and just check out the staff page and look at the title of the person there. Or if it's a guest speaker, you can just type in guest speaker if you are unsure. So here we just updated the title. This is the coolest thing. All we need to do now is hit File Save to this project. And if we just move this aside for now, after a second, there's a live link between Premiere Pro and After Effects. And when we change this title, it's going to update and change it in Premiere Pro. Of course, we're dealing with quite a bit of data here, so it's going to take about, I'd say 60 seconds to 2 minutes to update. But eventually, once this preview window refreshes, we will see what we just changed in After Effects reflect here in the project. It's very, very cool. There it is. And then what we've been missing for a couple weeks is the name of the series and the name of the message that he's doing. So I'm going to take a second and show you how to configure that one each week. So I think what we should do is drag maybe this description one down to the project and bump it up right against the JSON title on video 2 layer. And if we put our cursor on top of that, obviously it's covering up the entire screen. It's too big. So just because we're getting this done for the first time, we'll click on this clip that we just dragged in, which is this title here. And I have a nice preset called lower third title position in the Effects tab under the Preset menu. If I drag this and put it on top of this clip, the title is going to snap to the correct placement that is just the same as Jason Holdridge's title. So those two will just sort of play smoothly next to each other and come in and out. So this is the message title from a few weeks ago. What we just did was the Blessed Life, I believe, week 5. So again, we'll right click on this, reveal in project. Once it's revealed, right click, edit original. It's going to open over in After Effects, which once again is on the second screen. I'll drag it over and maximize it. Here we are. So the Blessed Life Part 2, this really is going to be Jason's message title. So what we'll do to look up his message title is go to the internet, Google Chrome. Again, it's over on the second monitor. I'll drag it over. Planning Center is always a bookmark button right here on the toolbar. I'll click that. It should automatically log in as me or Ryder. And then we'll scroll down to the Weekend Services category, open up last weekend's service by opening up this weekend's and then simply just going backwards 1 week. So there's May 23rd, 24th, Blessed Life week 5, and then here is the message. It was called The Word of God, and it was week 5. That's what I'm interested in. Each week I make sure we have this title in Planning Center. And if it's not there, then shame on me. So The Word of God is the name of the title. I'll close out of Chrome and then put my cursor here and rename this message title. Again, all caps, The Word of God. Now, we'll need to change the formatting a little bit because we no longer said the Blessed Life up top, so we need to denote that down here. So Blessed Life week 5. And then the last touch to this is the date. It's kind of handy to see the date hard-coded into the program. And I believe the message, if I click the calendar down here, from on Sunday was the 24th. So we'll go May 24, 2015. That looks stellar. What's really cool is that as we've made these changes, they should be reflecting in Premiere Pro. So we'll move Adobe After Effects aside, go back into Premiere Pro, and after a minute or two, this will refresh. Alright, so if you are into overachieving, let's add the last final touch to these video projects. And again, hopefully this will stay the same week after week, so you won't have to do a whole lot of work to it. We would love, I think it would be really cool to add a watermark of the Impact logo to the bottom right bottom right corner of the screen. And over here in your project bin, if you open up these lower third titles folder, there's an Impact Cross white here, and there's two of them. I'll delete one of them. I'm going to take this here, and I'm going to drag it to the video 3 layer and let go. And I'm going to put it right where the message starts. It's very, very small, so I can't quite grab onto it. I'm going to put my cursor there, and I'm going to zoom into it. Now that I'm closer to it, I can see more of where it's going to be positioned at. I want it to start right after this dip to white ends. And then I'm going to extend this by holding my mouse over this clip until it becomes a red arrow, and then dragging it along to make it longer. And we're going to do this for the entire message. So I'll zoom out, drag it down, zoom out again, and then drag it all the way, to the end. And if I put my cursor now anywhere in the video, it's this huge white cross, which doesn't look good. So I'll click on the clip of the cross white, and there's an Effects Controls tab right here. I'll click this, open up Motion, and it's the scale right here. And so what I can do is take this number, I can click and hold with my mouse and drag left, and it will shrink. And I think we should do a scale of maybe 8 to 10%. And then we just take this, click the motion here. There's boxes here, and we can just simply click anywhere inside of that box and position this here. Now what I like to do as a little trick is to put my cursor in a place where I can see the title, and then I like to align vertically this logo with the title, and then kind of get it symmetrically spaced. There's a gap here, and so I'll match that gap here, and there's about, I'll center it with the top and bottom of this title. That's looking pretty good. As a last step, I'll click on the Impact Cross White in the Effects Controls tab, and then there's an opacity option I can open up. Click this little stopwatch to turn off any automation settings, and then I'll simply take my opacity and I'll type in a value of 50% and then hit the Enter key. And then this logo then becomes much less transparent. If it looks too bright to you, we could even go lower. We could do 35%. And then it really just kind of ghosts it out a little bit and is more of a suggestion and less of a prominent logo. Okay, let's button things up. At the very end of the clip, I'll zoom into it, put my cursor at the end. We want to repeat our intro bumper at the end. So here's how we do that. I'll scroll to the beginning of the clip, take our impact bumper, we can right click, copy, and then at the very end, put the cursor anywhere really, and then right click, Control V on the keyboard, and it will paste right into the timeline there. Now wherever my cursor is where this is going to paste, so the other option you can do is put your cursor here and go Edit, Paste. Boom. There it is. Then I'll just butt this right up to the end of the clip. And then of course this is going to be a hard cut from the end of the message into the bumper. So we'll simply do a, in the Effects tab, Video Transitions, let's do a cross dissolve this time. Let it go. Fades nicely into the bumper. And then in audio transition, we want this to fade out nice and smooth. So we'll do audio, exponential fade, drag it just like the beginning, and it fades out really nice. Keep in mind as a detail, we also have this logo here that we just inserted, and we'll need that to fade out nicely too. So we'll go video transitions, dissolve, and then cross dissolve. Put a dissolve there, and so everything is going to fade out nice and smooth into our bumper. Beautiful. We'll zoom out, double check, make sure everything looks good, and looks good to me. Okay, next step, this is much quicker and not nearly as time intensive, is the worship segment of the service. So let's pretend that this was the old recording from last week. We'll delete it. And again, we are on the worship tab, or the worship sequence, not the message anymore. We'll then take from our project bin, we'll close this folder so we can see everything else. We'll take the same service that we were working with, which I believe was Blessed Life Week 4. And we'll put it on video 1. We don't need to worry about any intro bumpers or anything. We're just going to put it right up to 0. And it looks like this actually cut out. This recording didn't start until the announcement. So I don't want to use this service. I want to use a different one. We'll grab, maybe 9:30. And here are those, here's that gray versus the dark gray up top here. I'm going to go clear in and out. It's going to go away. Now, notice there is no video preview right now. For some reason, it just is taking a second for the clip to update. And if I hit play, it's kind of being loggy. So just know that this is a really huge file. It's just taking a second to show up. Be patient if that does happen for too long. Good, there it is. So here is worship happening right now. Looks like the raw recording started when there was still a minute to go on the countdown for the service. So I'm going to butt my cursor right up here to where I see the songs kick in with the sound waves, and then trim it, and then drag it to 0, and that's the true start of the video. And then I'm just going to look for when I think the message began. There's announcements. We'll keep announcements in the message. Or sorry, we'll keep announcements in this clip. And we'll keep going. We're still worshiping. Looks good. There's Nick's song, which I think we'll keep into this recording after all. Very nice. And then there's Jason starting his message, which we already took care of. So we'll then go to our toolbox, select our razor tool, chop it there, delete the message part, and then leave just the worship, which is there, and that's done. The last element to consider is the podcast. This part is important for people listening at home that just want to hear the audio and not watch it. So this will be folks listening on iPods, streaming it in their cars as they're driving to work in the morning, that kind of thing. So we're primarily concerned about just the sound of the message, not the video. So what we can do to make this really fast is just go to our message sequence, click on that, choose the actual message, which is right here, and then again we can right-click, copy, and then go to our podcast sequence, put our cursor at 0. I'll just scroll over and go to 0. Edit, paste. And that just pasted just the message into this clip here. And everything is looking nice. Perfect. If you're anal and it's hard to distinguish what we're actually going to be creating from this podcast sequence, what you can do is remove the video information and just leave the sound. And you can do that by right-clicking on this clip and hitting unlink. And then once you click away and then click on just the video, notice how now they're separated. You can then click on the video and hit delete on the keyboard, and all you're left with now is just the sound, which is the podcast, which is perfect. Okay, so now that our editing is finished, hopefully that made sense. Sorry, it's kind of long, but hopefully that made sense. We're ready now to export. So let me show you how to export these final products. We're going to start with the message. We'll choose the message sequence. Make sure the blue line is around it. File, Export, Media. The keyboard shortcut is Control-M if you are a keyboard shortcut fanatic. What we see is a simple dialog box that's going to show us a preview of the project that we can scrub through if we want to. It'll tell us how long it's going to be, but we're most concerned with the format and preset options right here. I have prepared for you under Format, we'll do an H.264 format. Preset is going to be Impact HD 720p. There are a ton of presets for different applications. I've made one perfect for us. It's called the Impact HD 720p setting. Use that one every time. The third step is to click on the output name, message.mp4 here. If we click on those letters, it's going to open up the location where this project will be saved. As we talked about in part 1 of this series, we're going to be talking about saving this to the F drive, hard drive, which is right here on the left in our computer. And F drive, double click on that. And we are in the Blessed Life. So I'll click on this one. And then this was week 5, which I created that folder earlier. And then we're going to name this file this way. The Blessed Life week 5 message. You could also do, if you wanted, message week 5. What's important is that we have the words message and then what week it is and then what series it is. I'll hit save, and it's going to save as that name now. Last step, I'll hit the Q button. Once I hit Q, a new program is going to open called Media Encoder, and it's right here. As it loads, you're not going to see it yet, but it will show up right here. It might be on the second screen. And there is the project right there waiting to be exported. But we're going to stack a list of stuff to export in this program first before we hit the go button, which is right there. I'll move this aside. We're going to continue our exporting process back in Premiere Pro. I'll choose the worship sequence now. Make sure the blue line is outlining that sequence. File, Export, Media. Same format here. H.264, the preset is Impact HD 720p. I'll click on the blue letters. The same folder, F Drive, Blessed Life, Week 5, and this one's going to be the Blessed Life, Week 5 Worship. We named these files with redundancy, even though they're in the Blessed Life folder for today's Week 5. In case these files ever get disorganized, we can always tell what they are, and we won't have to watch them and guess. So file naming redundancy is really important. Hit Q, and then once again it will show up as another item to render here in the program. Last step, we'll export the podcast, so listen up on this one. We'll do File, Export Media for the podcast, and this one is going to remember that we wanted an MP3 format, because after all, this is just going to be sound. And then the format here is going to be the high quality 256 kilobytes per second option. It's going to sound really nice for people listening at home. Lastly, the name is going to be Blessed Life Week 5 Podcast. Same folder, F Drive, Blessed Life Week 5, hit save, and we'll queue that one up. And it will show up over here in a media encoder. There are our 3 files waiting to be written to the F drive. I'm going to hit the play button, and after a second we'll see the video begin to render down here. It's going to take about 2 hours for everything to finish. So we can minimize this program, hit File, Save in Premiere Pro, save all of our work in case something crashes, close Premiere Pro, drag over After Effects just so we can see it, File, Save After Effects, close After Effects, and then maybe bring up the media encoder program, leave it there in case someone is going to use this computer and needs to see that something is happening so they don't shut the computer down. And walk away, you're done. Everything is finished, and the next step is going to be, in the next video, learning how to upload this content to YouTube. Again, feel free to watch this video a couple times. I know it was pretty long, but a very, very important, crucial training that you guys need to know how to do as you come in to edit these videos down. Today was a great example of having to make some decisions on the fly with what to keep included in the message clip, and then what to keep in the worship clip, and so on. So hopefully I've made sense. Please contact me if you have any questions or need more clarity. Thanks, guys.